about their portfolio rebalance capability and the role that it plays in a managed account advice service. Shannon, thanks very much.
Great. Thanks, Toby. I'm going to just share my screen in a sec. Just do that. Great, excellent. Thank you again, Toby, for the opportunity, and thanks, IMAP, for hosting this week of very informative webinars. As mentioned by Toby, we were a participant entry in the Innovation Award, and hence Toby asked if we could share in that technology innovation today. Managed accounts, particularly those under discretion, are sometimes put under the scrutiny of being too cookie cutter and not tailored to the client's best interest nor the market conditions. What I hope to show you today is how advisors can customise managed account portfolios for their clients while still gaining the economies of scale and efficiency of managed accounts. And there are three main areas of tailoring that I'd like to focus on today, namely the upfront construction of the portfolio for the client and the tailoring that can be done there. Secondly, the rebalancing of that client's portfolio into the market. And then thirdly, what can be done on the actual execution of those transactions into the marketplace. We only have 20 minutes today, so I won't be able to show you everything of WealthO2's rebalancing and managed accounts functionality, but I will focus on these key aspects to provide that information of how you can tailor clients' managed accounts and still gain scale and efficiency. So first, let's have a look at the portfolio construction and how to apply best interests for a managed account portfolio for a client. So there's a couple of things that can be considered when constructing a portfolio or managed account for a client. First is the minimum trade parcel. So this is a dollar value that's set under which orders are not placed, so $1,000, for example, and it's there to minimise the erosion of performance by brokerage and also to minimise the costs of self-managed super fund accountants where there's a lot of parcel and noise. So setting that is obviously important, but at the same time, when you do set a minimum trade parcel, if you aren't able to meet that in terms of the rebalance, with the low interest rate environment, it's also good to consider whether all of those small parcels are added up into a single investment into the market to keep your clients fully invested. And in our language, we call that a default security. So it's like a parking lot for those small parcels. The next area of customization is around the franking and CGT implications of 45 or 365-day rule to stop the rebalancing from actually selling those parcels. So that is something can be considered on a client level as well. Now, in terms of the application of SMAs and managed accounts, often that cookie cutter discussion is related to the fact that it's often 100% allocation to a specific model, and there is no tailoring around the model itself. So in the case of the construction of a client's portfolio, one can actually blend models and or other percentage allocations to other securities as fits that specific client's needs or advice. But saying that, when you do use a managed account model, sometimes there are ethical reasons that your clients are not wanting you to buy into a specific security, or they might have directorships that prevent them from doing so. So having the ability to override that at a client level is also important. Similarly, the ability not to sell when you are holding a specific parcel, maybe it's from tax reasons or an emotional bias to a specific asset. And lastly, around the tolerance levels that you set to which then the rebalance is triggered. So what materiality do you want to have to trigger a rebalance for your client? So having a look at those and applying them in terms of the actual technology, starting with the minimum trade parcel. So as I mentioned, setting that, and that can be set at a client-specific or template level, the 45-day rule, as mentioned, as well as the 365. the security and asset class tolerance levels so that you can control the sensitivity by which you trigger a rebalance of that client's portfolio. The minimum trade parcel set, as I mentioned, you can have default security, so you can invest, in this case it's AAA, that you would invest those small parcels into. And a portfolio construction of what assets are invested in. Here's an example of 90% allocation to a model, and then the client in this instance needed some liquidity for a personal event, so there's an additional allocation to an at call and an exposure to an international. The do not buys and do not sells, here we've got an example of each, in this case it's pro rata by asset class, but you can do substitutions. And if we look at the effect of that on the actual portfolio, where we said we don't want to buy something, it's then pro rata increased for the remaining assets in that asset class. Where we don't want to sell something, it is reducing down the others in the asset class to keep the asset allocation consistent to what you wanted for that particular client. So those are examples of how you can use the technology to implement that client-specific portfolio, and you can see the colour schemes there to indicate the materiality of how overweight or underweight the clients are at a security level there. So that's a summary of how to tailor specific clients' needs at various levels within the actual portfolio. And then obviously once you've done that, you can then take it into the effect of the bulk rebalancing. So if we have a quick look at that, we could go and rebalance every client individually, but much more effective is to do bulk rebalancing across all those tailored client portfolios. We at WealthO2 offer both discretion and non-discretion accounts through the managed accounts. And this example in the screen is showing you how to bulk rebalance, firstly discretionary, and which would go straight into trading. You can also bulk rebalance those clients that have not given discretion and want to get an electronic record of advice, and which is electronically sent to them, and on their permission, authorization, we execute through intraday into the market. So the purpose is to show how you can tailor your clients at a client level, but still get the economies of scale and efficiency through the bulk rebalancing after you've done that tailoring of those client-specific needs. The next level of tailoring is actually is something new that we've launched recently, is within the actual rebalancing itself. So you've tailored your clients, but now we're actually going to do some further tailoring actually when it comes to the implementation of that rebalance itself. Now, why would you look to do that? Well, it could be that there's a specific market condition that makes you want to not trade a specific asset class or a specific asset, or you may see an opportunity in the marketplace you want to get your clients into, or it could be that you've got multiple models and you only want to implement one of the models today. So there's various reasons why you would want to do these tweaks, and it's typically at a high net worth level that this kind of functionality is utilized. So if we have a quick look at the new tool, firstly, you can rebalance it at asset class or at model level. You can just get into a market opportunity, like an order pad, and choose whether it be a dollar percentage of portfolio or units that you want to get into that specific asset. Resetting the rebalance shows you what is calculated. You can say, I don't want to go into Australian shares today, or you could say, I want to override a specific hold, which is a minimum trade parcel in this example. You can also choose to isolate at an individual's asset level of the asset class. And as I am amending these trades, you're able to see the changes in the proposed asset allocation. So as I change there, it's changing the proposed at both the security and the Australian shares level. so that you're all the time knowing what the implications of your tweaks and changes are for this client, as well as the cash that is resultant of these transactions. We've also got a tool where you can export all those transactions as well as import. And so if you do use your own methodology with regards to any trades, you can apply that. Here's just a warning on the minimum trade parcel, which can be bypassed if you're happy to do so. And it shows you then the summary of what we're going to execute through into the market. You can provide limit order instructions or put some file notes for this rebalance as required for audit. For those that don't have discretion, you can generate an ROA, or if you've already got permission, you can bypass it and proceed through into the market. Going back, it remembers what I've previously said we should do, and it's just showing you here how you could say, actually, I want to do something different on BHP, so I go back in, make my amendments, and it's dynamically calculated what the effect is on my proposed asset allocation as a result. It's also given me a warning of minimum trade parcel, which is fine, and it proceeds through and does the checks and then proceeds through to the checkout for me to progress through into the marketplace. So in a summary of, in terms of the new rebalance, it provides further flexibility for the market and or client purposes specific, much higher levels of customization in the actual rebalancing process, and the ability to execute specific asset classes and or specific models or security level. It allows for that dynamic calculation, so you're seeing what the effect of your trades are real time, and you're able to do your tweaks accordingly, as well as manage the impact of liquidity and cash. But the tailoring can be used under both discretion as well as those that want electronic record of advice sent to their clients for electronic authority. And we can also, what we're seeing is some of the higher net worth advisor groups are using this to be able to produce a document for a one-on-one service review with their clients, and then being able to reload the trades that they've previously exported and directly execute those into market after their review meetings with those high net worth clients. So it's very powerful tool for those that are looking for that next level of tailoring within the actual rebalancing itself. The final part of the tailoring focus that I'm bringing today is that of implementing best interest duties during the actual execution of those trades to market. And that could be whether it's limit orders, managing liquidity of the market makers, intraday execution throughout the day of the ASX being open, and knowing the timing of the market for certain assets, bulk processing of those trades at a single price and rebooking to all the clients equally, as well as the management of liquidity. All of these make an effect in terms of the contribution of a better outcome for the client. And that's the discussion. Toby.
Thank you very much, Shannon. As I mentioned, if you have questions for any of the presenters, use the Q&A button down the bottom of your screen. And Shannon, a couple have come in. So the first one concerns the technology itself and asked, does the rebalance work just for funds, managed funds or wholesale funds, or is it also a direct securities tool?
Yes, so thanks, Rakesh, for that question. It is for both listed managed funds as well as ETFs, as well as term deposits and at-call accounts all in one. And then we also manage unlisted assets for the high net worth clients, which is all part of that same rebalancing. So all the assets included in that. And sort of a supplementary to that, I take it that, as I think we saw, all the portfolios that are associated to a model and their degree of compliance with the model are visible in a single screen. Yes, so obviously I didn't go through all the strategic asset allocation or tactical calculations in this demonstration, but that is all part of the portfolio construction and monitoring that we offer.
And I take it that the technology which you've developed is an intrinsic part of the WealthO2 platform rather than a standalone tool.
Correct. So we are a service for advisors. We're an alternative platform solution for advisors. So whilst we're not a product and don't have a PDS, we're akin to the other peers in the platform space in terms of a holistic end-to-end service offering for advisors.
Yes, we all wish that ASIC would recognise that MBAs are services and SMAs are products, and craft their approach accordingly.
And we do have a superannuation on him for the same. So it's like everything else. But that technology that I've just shown applies to all types of clients, whether they're investment or superannuation clients.
I'd like to touch on the best interest issue because it seems to me that so much use of managed accounts over the next couple of years is going to be dependent on best interest. I mean, to what extent do you see these types of tools enabling advisors to sort of hand on heart say, yep, I recommended this because this was the way I could meet your goals?
Well, obviously, going from cookie cutter to this much tailoring, it's quite evident that you've had some thought process through the process that can be audited by anyone and seen quite clearly that you've done something specific that is specific for that client, so it always relates. But I think also the clients are actually asking for this level of value from their advisors, and obviously the more high net worth, the more specific tailoring that goes through. But even just the little things like knowing that if a client, even if they're small, needs a liquidity event, the ability to actually have some excess cash and investments in some liquidity is important. So whether they're small and they just need that, or whether they're bigger and they need a lot more tweaks in terms of their best interest. I think the important thing is when ASIC walks in the room and they're getting more and more focused on this in the new year, how you can say that everyone was the same if you've not considered any of these aspects, I think is something that advisors should be more cognizant of. You know, they all want to do the best interest, but you also want to have scale in your business. So that's where we believe that the two can come together using the technology in this manner that I've shown today.
And is this technology for use in an advisor office by an advisor or in a sort of centralised administration setting, or both?
It's both. We really see WealthO2 as a service to, like, an extension of the advisor's own practice. So we work very closely with both the advisors using the tools as well as their support staff equally. So there's lots more behind what I've shown you today. I just really wanted to focus on the topic, but ultimately it's about every part of the value chain of implementation of advice, right through to the reporting and the ongoing service and communication to the clients.
And look, a final question from Nick Nedichin. Does the platform handle US listed securities as well?
Yes, via Traces, which is through the Chi-X. You can trade through the broker accounts on the US market currently, and then we will be looking to offer all markets in the new year.
Great. Well, look, Shannon, thank you very much for your time today. We'll be posting a video of today's sessions through the IMAP website, and you'll be able to go back and review that. We'll also be making available a copy of the slides for those of you who are interested or want to share them with your colleagues. So, Shannon, thank you very much for your time today. It's now my pleasure.